Hello, my spooky scaries, and welcome back to an all new episode of The Final Pod. Ezra Rivers here, your host for all things spooky all the time. And before we get into today's episode, be sure to give the show a rate and follow to stay up to date on all new releases, as well as follow the show on Instagram at The Final Pod for all updates. Today, we're diving into the murky waters and secret-filled woods of one of TV's most captivating thrillers, Pretty Little Liars. And let me tell you, this show has more secrets than a haunted mansion's attic. With all the twists and turns you could think of, get ready for some severe whiplash. Back in the day when teen dramas ruled the airwaves like fashion-forward overlords, we had Gossip Girl, The OC, One Tree Hill, Vampire Diaries. I mean, the list goes on and on. Something scary was missing. Pretty Little Liars emerged in 2010 like a blood-curdling scream in the night that nobody wanted to hear but needed to know where it came from. Picture this: scandalous romances, a teacher with some seriously questionable extracurriculars, and a relentless game of who's the creepiest. Pretty Little Liars was set to make history. Seriously, who didn't secretly want to be one of those stylishly tormented teens? I mean, even as a man, I know, especially Hannah, I was like, girl, give me that outfit. Anyway, now why did the show capture my ghoulish heart, you ask? Well, besides the killer plot twist, the awesome fashion, it also dared to explore real issues, like Emily Fields navigating her sexual identity in a world that sometimes felt like a maze of secrets and lies. Emily's story definitely hit close to home with how her mom dealt with the truth of Emily's identity, and even how Emily kind of navigated her way herself. It was really interesting and cool, I guess, just to see, many teens, including myself, for the first time saw someone that really looked like us and felt like us. So I thought that was awesome. Being Puerto Rican, it was beautiful to see a queer woman of color navigate the world of coming to terms with her sexuality. I will always love and give props to the creators for that. I always thought that was something that really made the show stand out. I mean, if you know, Shay Mitchell is Filipino, and I don't know, I thought that was always something that really stood out to me and really made me love the show even more. For their care and their sensitivity to the issue, it wasn't done in a way to be a gimmick. It felt very true to the character, true to the show, and I thought that was awesome. And then on top of that, can we talk about the iconic A messages? I mean, the pilot literally ends with the first group text saying, "I'm still here, bitches, and I know everything, A." Like, if that's not the best text ever received on a show, I don't know what is. Every reveal was more jaw-dropping than the last, and don't get me started on the wardrobe envy, like I have said already like 5 times. Like, they were styled down, and I think that's also really what gave it the factor of it, because the early 2000s were very fashion forward, and everything was kind of like, who's wearing what, where did they get it from, and how can I get it? If I'm correct, I even think that they had like deals with certain, like, some brands, like Aeropostale, I think, had a brand, like a Pretty Little Liars brand deal with them, and they had like Dress Like Spencer and Dress Like Aria. And why? That's crazy. I just unlocked a memory. Like, this wasn't even part of the show, but they definitely had brand deals with certain companies. And why I know this is because I went to one of the events, and I can't remember all who was there, but I do remember that Troian Bellisario, who plays Spencer Hastings on the show, was there. And I met her for a second. I think they gave out like little magazine. Oh my god, this is so funny that this is coming into my head right now. And yeah, they had this like, they had these little events, and I was working in American Eagle, which, if you are familiar with New York City, it's right next to the Aero store in Times Square. And when I was working at American Eagle, we also had Shay Mitchell, who plays Emily Fields, come by the show because she was part of their like new denim line or collection. Oh my god, why am I remembering all this? She was part of their like American Eagle new denim collection, and she had come in and signed a bunch of picture cards of her wearing the jeans. And I remember I I don't think I worked that day, and I was so mad because, hello, very big Pretty Little Liars fan here. Um, if you know, you know. If you know me, you know. And so I remember being so mad, but then I heard that we had some left over, and I will never forget that I like ran to work the next day, and I just like, ran into the stockroom, and I was like, "Where are they? Where are they?" And they had put two in my locker already, and I was like, "Thank you, it's the best thing in the world." But I wanted like all of them, and I have no idea where those prints are. I have no idea where the magazine of Troyan is, and if I'm correct, there was also a signed picture card in there by her. She might have had a deal with Arrow as well. Like, I don't know if it was like a den. Anyway, I remember all this, and that's how crazy it was. That's how like big the fashion was. Now I'm remembering where that even came from. That's how big the fashion was for the show, and I think it really excelled and propelled like who was watching. If you were a teen girl at some point in the 2000s, you were shopping at like I mean, you know, yeah, if you were a millennial like myself. Anyway, yeah, you shopped at Arrow, you shopped at American Eagle, you shopped at you know, Juicy and Forever 21, whatever it was. Like the 2000s were very big on fashion, and everyone was wearing what these celebrities were wearing. And so I think the fashion of the show really captured that teen audience because it associated with what they were wearing and going through like in life. I don't know. Anyway, and I think the fashion was a really big thing. I think it's still a big thing. It is, as I do like a rewatch currently. It is very dated and of the time, but I can still see some of these fashion trends. I see y'all wearing it, whether you want to admit it or not. Y'all dressing like the girls were in the 2000s, and I'm here for it. I'm here for a Y2K revival. And yeah, that was that was where my thought process went, mentioning the wardrobe envy and like the fashion of it all. Let me get back on track. So after 7 spine-chilling seasons, which unfortunately felt extremely flat for me, again, if you've watched the show, there will be spoilers in this, so I'm starting off a little slow and easy, so I'm not really trying to ruin anything for anyone yet. If you're listening, you might want to start leaving about now. The show felt really flat for me at the end. We'll get into all of it, but we'll get into it. Needless to say, I guess you can call it a franchise now. It didn't just go away. There have been 2 spin-offs since Pretty Little Liars ended. The first was Pretty Little Liars: The Perfectionist, which was, it took the setting from the whole high school thing and tried to amplify it to like a college setting to make them a little more, I guess, adult and appeal to a newer audience while also trying to grow up with the audience that the show grew up with. And just really didn't do what it needed to do. I think the misuse of Mona and Allison within the storyline was borderline cringeworthy. And truthfully, it ended on a great cliffhanger. Like, I wanted to know who the professor was, but it just, I think the build up to it all didn't hit the mark that Pretty Little Liars did, with like every reveal and every kind of like brick by brick build up to what a season finale was going to bring. I think what Pretty Little Liars did so well with the series was it laid down the foundation, even if it was something that was leading up to a twist that ended up like everything you knew was like, okay, this is BS. It laid the foundation down and it led you down like the yellow brick road to get to that finale. And I think with The Perfectionist, it stumbled along the way, and it kind of, I think it tried to take itself too seriously. And what made Pretty Little Liars work was how out of the box everything was and how over exaggerated everything was. And I think with The Perfectionist, it tried to be a little too, I don't want to say woke because that's not the right word, but it tried to do a little too much when it didn't need to. We brought back Mona and Allison, which already tied in the original show, and it gave an extension of the Pretty Little Liars brand, so we didn't really need to see new versions of the same characters. Like, we could have done something completely, well, I wasn't part of the team, even though if I was, we'd probably have more than one season. Clock it. Just clock it. But yeah, it didn't do what Pretty Little Liars did, and for that, it wasn't renewed for a second season. And I think for a while, everyone was kind of like, all right, let's just leave the show where it is. Let's just leave its legacy. We're gonna, if you want to rewatch it, I think it was at one point streaming on like every single streaming platform that you could have. I think it was on like Netflix, Hulu, HBO, and then everyone just kind of thought it was done. So we started rewatching the old ones, and I think that kind of built hype. And Max, where the new spinoff is, really saw, okay, the fan base is still there. New people are watching it. So we fast forward to 2023, and we get Pretty Little Liars Original Sin, and 2024 Pretty Little Liars Summer School, which really revived the whole slasher vibe, but also gave it its own complete entity. Which at first I was kind of like, maybe we shouldn't have slapped like the Pretty Little Liars name on it, but with the Easter eggs and how they subtly tie in everything without overdoing it, it works, it makes sense. It's a great show. So if you're not streaming it, if you haven't streamed it, whether you're a fan of the original or not, you do not have to see the first 7 seasons of Pretty Little Liars to jump into Original Sin. As I said, there's certain nods to the original series and the characters and certain things like that, but it's never anything where you're like, oh my god, damn, I kind of need to know who this person is, or like, I need to go back and watch the show to know what that, joke was, or whatever the case may be. It just kind of flies within the show. It's cool. You can just watch it flat out if you wanted to. So yeah, we get to like current time, and now we have this new era of Pretty Little Liars, which is the Original Sin era, which now has season 2, which is Summer School, that just ended. I'm just gonna say this: if anyone from HBO Max or the cast of Pretty Little Liars Original Sin and Summer School listen to this episode by any chance, whatever, please talk to the execs and let them know 8, 9, even 10, 11, 12 episodes is not enough when you slap the name of Pretty Little Liars on a show. And I'm just gonna say that, okay? Granted, they worked those girls from the OG show to the motherfucking bone, but it produced so much content and so much television that, like, even though the story went fucking haywire, we had 22 episodes, 25 episodes a season, so it all made sense. Like, with the spin-off being so short, everything feels rushed, and I think they do a great job at telling that specific story within those 8 or 9 episodes. So shout out to them. You do get a complete story within the seasons. Like, Original Sin, from first to last episode, makes sense. It tells a story. The story starts and has an ending. And then we get Summer School, which takes pieces of the first season and extends it into a second story, a sequel, if you will. And I think they're doing a good job at sort of giving the space for the seasons to be what they are, but we need a little more. I think we need more suspense, we need more drama, we need more text, like bring back the text messages or make them emails, like do something, but we need more of like what made Pretty Little Liars so special. They've got the fashion down, they've got the aesthetic down for what they're trying to do, but I think they can take a little more from the original series. Like, did I think the OG Pretty Little Liars lied to each other a little too much? Yeah, but they were Pretty Little Liars. It's in the name. I think the whole lying aspect is what makes it fun, and I think that's what the new series is missing. Like, yeah, they lie to their parents. They'll like tell a little white lie to each other, but we don't have like, oh, Spencer sleeping with her sister's boyfriend and like ruining her relationships and keeping that secret and then that secret coming out, or certain characters having little conversations with one person about something and then that becoming a bigger deal, and it that conversation becoming a secret that then comes out to the group, and then we need the drama. Like, where's the drama? I think that's they've leaned 100% into the horror, which is fun. It's great. It's fresh. It's new. But I think when you slap the name Pretty Little Liars onto something, you've got to give the Pretty Little Lying. Yes, the cast is stunning. All of them. Love them. Beautiful. Queens. Clock. Love them. But it's missing more of the like internal sabotage that I think makes Pretty Little Liars, the OG, so fun. Like, we see them lying to each other even when they don't need to, and then it comes out and it's like, girl, why'd you even, like, what was the secret about? It's really not that deep, but it built tension. It built untrust within the group as well, to where you don't know who's lying to who about what, and then everyone's just in this clusterfuck of lies. And I think that's what we need. I think that would make the new series a lot more fun. It's definitely a horror show. It's definitely a slasher. It definitely pays homage to all the OG classic slashers that we all know and love. And it's definitely a new age version of it. I love it for what it's worth. I will tune in every season, every week, every episode, as much as we get. But I would like to see a little more of the lies and the secrets and the betrayal between kind of everyone. I think we are about a week off from a season 3 reveal. Hopefully, we're going to get an announcement if we time it with like Original Sin debuting, ending, and then when the announcement for season 2 was, I think it was like a couple weeks after the finale of season 1. And that's where we're at currently with season 2. So I'm hoping that we get an announcement next week or sometime soon. And now I guess we can jump into the A of it all. Okay, so a little bit of background story for the show, the universe, first of all, if you haven't watched the show, if you are completely clueless to the show and want to watch it or want to have, that experience of watching it, I will say from here on out, this is your official spoiler warning. From here on out, I am going to talk about anything and everything that pops into my pretty little head about the show. So, spoilers ahead, stop watching, or if you're really watching, definitely stop listening and start watching the show. Or if you really don't care about it and you just want to hang out, listen to me talk about a bunch of pretty girls lying and telling secrets, cool. But just know there are spoilers ahead. Okay, so the story and the show. Okay, first of all, the show is an adaptation of a book series. I read a few of the books. I want to say there's like 14. I may have read 8 of them, including their like little, I think there's like one or two little mid books that happen between the main series. I will say this right off the bat, it's completely different, and here's why. So the show takes a lot of aspects of the book, and then doesn't at the same time. So obviously the characters, yes, all the characters are the same name wise. Description wise, not so much. But that's where we start, right? That's the source material. It was created by I. Marlene King, and she adapted it for TV. with the help of the author Sarah Shepard. I think that's good to know, also because if you are a fan and if you didn't know, or if you become a fan and you want like a different version of the same material, definitely read the books. They're fun. They are very, very young adult, but they're a lot of fun. That's where we get the show from, right? We get it from the book series. Now, I'm not going to get into the comparisons or the contrast of the show for the book and the show, but I will say the premise is the same. Everything after like the first book is completely different. There are certain like scenes and little things that the show takes from the book but makes it into its own, like the when they're trapped in the cabin and it goes up in flames, like that's from the book, but how it was executed totally different. Anyway, okay, so I'm rambling again as I always do. So with the story, right, the show starts with, we have Emily, Allison, Hannah, Spencer, and Arya at a sleepover. I think Allison, like they're already there, and then Allison kind of, she pops up. So we're already looking at her like, bitch, where you been? These girls been here waiting for you, whatever the case, right? Allison is being herself. She's a little shady bitch, true nature, and the girls are kind of just hanging out. They're drinking, as the youngins say, they're getting lit, whatever. The group passes out at some point in the night, with Spencer waking up first. And then, well, no. You find out that Spencer was awake first, besides the fact that she's not there when Arya wakes up first. So the show follows Arya waking up first. She's looking around. Allison's not there. Spencer's not there. She gets the other girls up. They kind of are like, what the hell? They passed out. They're not really sure how or why. Spencer is shown walking back to the barn, and she says she heard a scream. Allison's gone. There was a scream. She went to look for her. She can't find her. Done. Now we fast forward a year since Allison disappeared. And again, we're following Arya. She's returned home from Iceland with her family. And in the past year, the group has kind of like fallen apart. They're not as close as they were before Allison went missing. And I think the fact that it starts off like that is definitely interesting. It adds to the tension as like each girl comes face to face with the other throughout the pilot. We start to learn about each of them separately, and then the relationships they have now versus when they were younger, whatever the case may be. We learn a whole lot and a whole bunch of nothing from the opening episode, which kind of gives us everything and piques our interest to who Allison is, why she was kidnapped, and then by the end of the pilot, a body turns up, so we're wondering why she was murdered. As I said, the show gives you everything and nothing in the pilot, right? So you're getting all the foundation. You know that they're not close. You know that Allison's missing. You're meeting other side characters who are shady as hell. Enter Jenna Marshall. It really sets the tone for what the rest of the show is going to be, which is every episode you're going to get a whole lot of everything and then a whole lot of nothing. And if you understand what I mean by that, then you get it, which makes it fun. So I think from the pilot episode, instantly you're drawn in. You're very hooked on who these girls are, what makes them such pretty little liars, besides the fact that they lie about everything. And then you're getting the mystery of Allison, right? So you're introduced to her very briefly, then she's gone, and then a body turns up, and they say that it's her. She's dead, quote unquote. That really is the basis for the show when you think about it, and you strip everything away, right? But without bringing in, if you know the show, without bringing in everything that you know about the show and all the storylines, that's the core of it. Group of friends. One night, one of them goes missing. They have no recollection really of the night. And then a body turns up. That lays the groundwork for everything, because now we want to know, as I said, who was this girl? Why was she kidnapped? How was she murdered? Why was she murdered? Who murdered her? Who did she know? Who did she talk to? This starts the whole game of Clue. This starts the whole game of whodunit. And I think that, for me, at the core, is what really drew me in, because it's a murder mystery. It's a towns filled fucking game of Clue, right? It's like every single person in the town had an interaction with these girls at one point or another in their lives, which could have potentially led to someone getting hurt, even if it was simply by association to Alison De Laurentiis, who is like the queen bee and the most evil thing at first glance. I will say that Homegirl's been through a lot, and if you watch the show and you know that, like, Alison was not the victim and she was not the bad guy. I mean, she was the victim, she was not the bad guy. Anyway, that's the basis of the show. That's kind of what drew me into it. I think that's what drew everyone into it. It was stylish, it was fun, it was scary, and it really knew how to play with your head. Where we lose it is everything after season 5. Now, I haven't completely rewatched in the last 2 years, so season 6 may or may not be okay to me. As I get to it, maybe I'll do an updated, like, hey, we love season 6. What I will say is that, yes, everything is filled with plot holes, right? This entire show is one big plot hole, and things that don't always make sense. But I think seasons 1 through 5 like really carried all the weight of what we wanted and needed from the show, especially when it came to Alison's mystery. We had numerous people revealed as being A. The first and most iconic is always going to go to Mona, and truthfully, she was like A till the end. Like, I don't really care about every other A that we got, even if it was like the whole A team. But Mona is A, and Mona will always be A, and that's just how it's going to be for the rest of my days. Mona was Hannah's best friend. Hannah is one of the 5 OG liars. And Rose was it loser turned it girl turned psychopath. But obviously, like I said, we love Mona, always and forever. I think she made so much sense as to being A. It felt very organic, right? It felt very real. You had, quote unquote, Alison had named her like loser Mona and made this girl's life a living fucking hell. And one day she was like, fuck this shit, and like, this bitch is wildin'. I'm gonna go and like ruin her life. Like, I'm gonna get my revenge. I am going to fight back. And granted, she went very, very, very haywire and took things very, very, very far. But like, I don't know. I feel for Mona. I'm gonna be hashtag Team Mona always and forever. We got Cece Drake, whose story went down such a weird path, but we'll always get, her props as Big A. And can we just talk about Cece Drake for a second? Like, let's give a moment of silence for Cece Drake. Yeah, you felt that, right? Cece Drake was such an interesting character, and I feel had so much potential to take the throne as the next A from Mona, and did, right? But now I feel like for the time that the reveal happened and the story was being written, it felt very, let's do this because this is what's going on in the world and it should be reflected in the show to build attention to it and draw in audiences. If we go down this route, people are going to watch. It's what's happening in today's society, right? Great. I get it. I understand the entertainment industry. I understand the business a little bit. I get that, like, you jump on the trends. Great. I don't think it worked so well in this storyline, in the sense of, as I said, it took something way too seriously, right? I think we had, CC Drake's character who came in and was pretty much the prototype of Allison, right? Like, Allison mimicked who CC Drake was and how she was and how she looked and how she held herself, and became Allison De Laurentiis. She became, I don't want to say a clone, but like another version of CC. CC was like her mentor. CC held a lot of Allison's secrets. CC found out that she was like part of the family, because she is the daughter. She's Allison's cousin, pretty much. She's Allison's cousin, and I think if we would have gone down the route of like, girl realizes cousin is like trying to be like her, and I guess in her like deluded mind becomes jealous of this younger person, and it's like, now I'm gonna do what you did to me back, so now I want your life. I think we could have went down that way, versus the whole like, I'm gonna leave that thought out of it because I don't want any shit for what I would say. No, I'm gonna be real, I'm gonna be honest. I think it was a gimmick. I think they went down the transgender route because it was a trend, and I don't think it worked for the story. I didn't think it made any sense. I love to see trans storylines in shows, especially crossing genres. I think we need more representation of the LGBTQIA plus community in our media, but I don't think it worked for the show. I think it felt very forced. It felt very much like, we have to do this. It's going to get people talking. It's going to... And great, like, push boundaries. Be the show that people are going to talk about, and give them a reason to talk about it in a sense that brings light to a topic that is actually, going on socially in the world. Yes, I'm all here for that. But I'm not here for it when it feels like it's not the path that you were going to take, and you're now taking this path just to get people to watch the show. Because if I'm correct, kind of at that point when we get that whole reveal, and that storyline really wraps up, I feel like the show was losing a little bit of its viewership. And I think and truthfully, I think it's just because a lot of the viewers, the show was on for so long, a lot of the viewers grew up. And that's not to say that the show is childish, and if you're older, you shouldn't watch it, right? Because people like myself, I know a lot of people who are older and that still watch it and love it and binge it and have fun with it, and are just like, it's a comfort thing for them. I think at the time of where the show was going down that route, post season 5, everything... they were losing that core viewership. And it's, for me, I think it's because people were growing up. And I think with growing up, they thought, okay, let's address grown-up issues. But it wasn't what we wanted. And it wasn't really, it just didn't make sense. And it didn't really stick. And I think a lot of people kind of tapped out after that. I didn't necessarily tap out after it, but it did feel a little, anyway, then we get like Toby part of the A-Team, which was the A-Team was other people not even really involved in the core initial mystery, but just a group of people that had beef. Like, and when I say beef, I mean like these people hated Allison, and they had this separate vendetta for Allison and the girls for being, mean girls and really torturing and being, the cause of a lot of people's trauma and their bullying in high school. You have this A-Team who now is like also wanting to take down the girls, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, it kind of makes sense, but it also doesn't. And like, yeah, I mean, if you're overwhelmed, so am I, right? Like, all that I've said so far, and this show goes on for 7 seasons. As I mentioned, I think for me, the last 2 seasons of the show are where it went completely off the wire and just felt like the writers were out of ideas and were kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing what stuck. And I feel like, unfortunately, the bad ideas stuck and the ones we should have gotten fell off. And what I mean by that, right? Like I mentioned, the whole Charles, Charlotte, Cece, that's all one person, by the way. That storyline, right? And then I think more towards like the end, we get our ultimate bad guy, our quote unquote Uber A, you know, the A to end all A's, was Spencer's twin sister, which then revealed that Veronica was her adopted mother and not her birth mother this entire time, making even Melissa not her biological sister. Now, let's unpack that, right? So, for the end, we get Spencer's twin sister, which is Alex Drake. Now, Alex Drake is Cece, Spencer, that's their sister. Alex is Cece and Spencer. Yeah, see, I'm clearly also trying to process this as I say this. Yes, our big bad, our A of all A's is Alex Drake, Spencer's twin sister, who is also Cece's sister, which makes Spencer's Cece's sister. Their mother is Mary Drake, who is Allison's mother's twin sister. Which means Allison is Spencer's cousin. I have to laugh because saying everything out loud truly does sound like the craziest fucking show, and it really is, and it plays out even crazier. There's so much shit that I'm not even mentioning in this episode right now about this show that will truly drive you up the wall. Like, if you're not here for, you know, pretty girls doing dumb shit and lying and really like just out of the box things, mind you, just move, right? Like, at some point you just gotta like pack up and go. Like, clearly Rosewood is not for you, babe. Rosewood wants you guys dead. Maybe you should just all leave, right? These girls have so much money, they come from rich families. Pack up and go. I know that's my out, right? That's my way out. Like, oh, we've been dealing with this for what? Almost 10 years now? Yeah, I gotta go. And if you find me somewhere else, we're just gonna keep moving. I have the money, I gotta go. And I think with that, right? So now you find out that Spencer and Melissa are not even real, like they're half sisters. And I feel like with taking the show in that direction, you really remove everything that has transpired, right? You remove the emotional depth of Melissa and Spencer's traumatizing and very, very diluted and twisted sister relationship. A lot of it just kind of fell away with the reveal that, like, at the end of the line, after everything these girls have been through, the last final thing is like your unknown twin sister from London with, and I'm just gonna say, Tryon Belisario. Spencer Hastings, I love you. I think you're a phenomenal actress. I think your directorial debuts on the episodes, whatever you've done in your career, has been great. The accent for Alex Drake was really, really upsetting. I'm gonna let you have it just because I know in my heart that this is not how this show was supposed to go. And I know they threw that shit at you last minute and you were like, look, let's wrap this up already. I get it. It wasn't it, right? And like, anyway, so we get this Uber A Alex Drake she like found out about Spencer and her life in Rosewood and was jealous of it, being that she was living in London working as a shitty bartender, and Spencer really had like this perfect, as far as she knew, because I don't think she knew about all the damn A shit that was going on, but you know, from her eyes, Spencer had this perfect life, and she was gonna come in and like take it. Like, she was like, you know what, I think at this point I deserve what she had, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna terrorize her and her friends. Well, her friends were collateral damage at this point when you really think about it, because the goal was to get to Spencer. She just came for her friends because why not? She's a psychopath. And she was gonna like take Spencer. I don't know if she wanted to kill the girls, I can't remember, but she really wanted to just take Spencer, lock her away in this man-made underground dollhouse, and then like let her like live out her days there and die and take over her life. Yeah, like that's where we ended Pretty Little Liars, like a show that started with the mystery of Allison, who she was, what she was, how she did everything, how sick and twisted she was, and how she played everyone in that fucking town just for her benefit, to a twin sister from London who was jealous of the American twin for a life that she thought she had, because Spencer's life was anything far from perfect, baby girl. Like, if you really knew, you wouldn't want that. I would want that. Like, I'd rather be a bartender in London living my best life, talking about let's get stoned, let's get drunk at the pub, than let's run around Rosewood in heels and have people wearing black hoodies chase us around even in the summertime. Like, hello? Why are you wearing hoodies in the summer? It's hot. I don't want it. Take it. Return to sender. Spencer can have it. I'm gonna live my life. Like, I don't... It made me mad, clearly. And it's like, I feel like the ultimate mystery was Allison, right? Like, the show started and should have ended with Allison. And I think the writers and the people involved in the show just kind of wanted to keep it going because it remained a big show until the end. But I think that ultimately cost the fans and the people who had dedicated all this time into the series a lot of misused plot points and a lot of things that didn't make sense. And it sucked, right? Like, when you're a fan of something for X amount of time and you're so invested in it, you get to the end of it and you're like, wow, like, I just invested, like, what, 7 years of my life, and this is what we get? Now, granted, if you're not a fan of anything, that's fine. Seeing it from that point of view, it sucks, right? I think that bringing in this storyline to kind of end the show really, like I said, made the show about Spencer and the Hastings, and it's not what it's about. It wasn't about them. They were catalyst, and they were collateral damage into the entirety of the story, which was Allison and what happened to her and who she had affected. And granted, you can run that but so long, right? They ran that storyline 5 seasons, 5.5 seasons, whatever. And with that, I think it should have ended. Now, granted, I love the show. Like, I love when it was airing. I remember watching it like religiously. I was a weekly girl. I was like, yep, in front of the TV, let's go, let's do this. So I loved it, right? I was able to hold on to it for a little longer than the story called for, but I think because of that, it definitely should have ended after we got, we found out Allison was alive, and then we help her live and get away from everyone. And then you bring in this other person, like, for no reason. I think after the time jump, cool, we should have ended it there. Baby girl was getting out of the mental institution or getting out of jail, whatever. Someone killed her, started a new mystery, cool. I think it just went on for too long. It didn't make sense. Like, Charlotte should have gotten out, had this, like, reformation, lived a life with Allison. Everyone should have went on and moved on from there. Like, we didn't need it to go on for so long. I think we had a lot of epic moments. We had the Redcoat era, which was my favorite. If you know season 3, if I'm correct, or season 4, or maybe it's like it boils into both seasons. With Redcoat, and then we find out that Redcoat is Allison, but Redcoat was also Cece with an Allison mask. Iconic. That was so cool, so fun. We get Allison coming back. Well, we get the New York episode, which was great. We find out that it was Shauna, when she was working with the A-Team. That wrapped up with Shauna getting killed because she wanted revenge for Jenna. Done. That could have wrapped up all that. I just think that season 5 or 6, whichever it is, would have really, really ended beautifully, and I think it would have given it just what it needed without the extra shit. It was fun. It was a fun ride, but what they could have done even was we could have had Spencer and the Hastings have this like mini spin-off, right? So like in the early 2000s or like 2010s, whatever it was, a lot of these shows would do like mini episodes, and they would upload them to like YouTube or like a website, and these mini episodes were things going on within the show's universe that was part of the show and tied into it, but wasn't directly part of the storyline. I think what they should have done was had Spencer and the Hastings have that little 5-episode arc, and then if we would have had that, it would have made sense. We could have introduced Alex. We could have seen different things that would make sense for the end to end the way it did, right? Throw in so many episodes, Spencer finding some shit out, whatever the case may be, and then at the final 5th little 30-minute mini episode, we get a picture of Alex. Done. Who the hell is that? What the fuck's she doing? We don't know. It'll make sense later. Then comes that season. Oh my god, Uber A is that girl that we saw in that mini episode that we thought was Spencer, but it was actually her twin. Done. Boom. That would have been beautiful. It didn't end that way. They didn't go about it that way, and for me, I think that made it very sloppy. It felt very rushed and forced, and it just didn't. It didn't really. It fell flat, right? I think I said that before. It fell flat, and I think it could have just been so much better. I'm very glad that the Pretty Little Liars name has been revived with Original Sin and Summer School. Even though, there's only nods to the originals, I think it's been fun. It's been a fresh restart of something that people loved, and it's also given it a more adult feel that doesn't feel forced like The Perfectionist, because of the setting. I think we still have high school girls being high school girls. They're touching on real topics such as SA and teen pregnancy and how you deal with teen pregnancy. We're getting the horror, we're getting the looks, the fashion, the beauty. We're just missing the suspense, and I think that's something that they should take into consideration moving forward. If we get a season 3, just make it a little more suspenseful, give us more lies, give us more betrayal, and yeah, I think it'll be great after that. All in all, I think this is one of my favorite shows ever, and it will remain a staple in not only my teenage years, but also my yearly rewatch, right? So I do a yearly rewatch of it. Maybe I'll do a little sub-series and have like recaps, or as I do episodes and as I'm watching the show, maybe I'll do season recaps. If you guys want that, let me know. Message me on Instagram, shoot me an email. Because I do love the show. I can talk about it forever. All my friends know that, like, I can talk about it all day, every day. And yeah, I think it's so fun having this new era of Pretty Little Liars. I don't really want to touch too much on that series yet in this episode, even though we've spoken about it a little bit, but it's because it's very new still. I think a lot of people are still finding it and catching up with it, and I don't really want to throw anything in there. I will talk about it a little bit. It's a new town. It's a new set of girls. You have secrets, and I think a big thing about it was, I think what captivated everyone in season 1 was how it played in like every aspect of these girls' lives. And without giving away too much, a big thing of season 1 and it being like original sin is the sins of their mothers is kind of falling down on them, and they are reaping what their mothers had done as teenagers. With that said, definitely go give it a watch. Now streaming HBO Max. And yeah, I think we're kind of wrapping this up here. If you're a fan of the show of Pretty Little Liars, like I said, I love to talk about it. Message me at the Final Pod. We can chat. If you want to do an episode with me about the show, let me know. We can put you on. It'll be fun. There's so much, like I said, that I didn't even touch on in this episode. You know, the Halloween episode, all the reveals, and everyone just going batshit crazy over this series and this show. I think really was a really big part of the 2010s and has really held its own, minus the whole Ezra being a creepy ass teacher stalker. I don't care what no one says, right? Like at the time I was like, oh my god, like hashtag daddy issues, right? Like I get it, girl, like I get it. But in the day and time that we're in now, I see why Summer School cut the original tie that they were going to have to Ezra and Arya, because the romanticization and the glorification of the whole teacher-student relationship, and then I think taking it further and past that to the point where like he knew Allison, and so even he was even kind of flirty with her and she was young. It just kind of gave him a track record for like preying on young girls. And I think where we are in today's society, we definitely don't need it again. Thank you for keeping Ezra and Arya where they are. I would love to see Arya back. I would love to see any other girls back on the spinoff, but I'm good off the Ezra of it all. I think, yeah, you know, like besides all that, I think this show had a great run for what it was worth. Definitely fell off at the end, but gave pop culture and a lot of teenagers great fashion sense, right? No, but it was a lot of fun. It was big in a lot of people's lives. It still is. It will remain. I think it's one of those shows that's just gonna be what it was. Yeah, Ezra's creep always, but I don't know. I think what I will say, how I will end this, is I will say, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's fun. Even, you know, throw it on in the background while you're cooking or you're cleaning, whatever the case may be. You're going to get into it. It's a great storyline, minus all the, you know, where it goes at certain points. But, yeah, we love Pretty Little Liars in this household. I'm excited for what HBO Max does with the rest of this series. Definitely looking forward to a season 3 announcement. Would love to see the new cast back again. There's hints and rumors about bringing in old cast members for a season 3 if it happens, or any season in the future. So with that, I want to see it last as long as it can. With the current season, with Pretty Little Liars Summer School, there were more nods to the OG PLO. We had one of the characters, I will say it's none of the girls, so before you get excited, don't. One of the characters from the OG PLO came back, had a big part in this season. Because of that connection, there were little Easter eggs and nods to the OG girls. It feels like we're getting closer to having at least one of them back. I know Lucy Hale, Aria Montgomery, has made it very abundantly clear that she would love to come and join the show at some point in any capacity. The writers have also expressed that they would love her back, being that she's been part of the, you know, universe that Pretty Little Liars lives in, which is the whole Pretty Little Liars, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Riverdale, Katie Keene universe that has been created. And she's been on Katie, where she played Katie Keene, which takes place in the Riverdale universe, which takes place in the Pretty Little Liars universe. So being that she's been part of that world for so long, they want to bring her in at some point for something, which would be fun. I'd love to see all of them back. I think I would love to see Allison in some way, shape, or form, whether that's like she wrote a book about, what happened to them in the past, and then now these girls go to a seminar or something that she's hosting about trauma and growing and becoming a better person. And I think that would be a cool way for her to come in to the new series with the younger girls and kind of having them relate on that. Like, oh, I know who A is. Like, I've had my own personal A in my life, and let's connect on that. I think that would be cool. I think we have Kelly, who is like the new quote unquote Allison of this new generation of Pretty Little Liars, on her kind of like path to redemption, which is something that Allison has been through. That makes sense for them to connect in some way, shape, or form. So there's a lot of potential for crossovers and bringing in the OG characters. I would love to see it, as long as it's not forced, as long as it's not stupid, and as long as it makes sense and keeps to the heart of what they are doing now, and doesn't take away from that, right? I don't want them to bring in all the girls for like a 3-episode stint if there's only 8 episodes, because that's kind of taking away from what they have now, and that's not going to work for me. So HBO Max, anyone at Pretty Little Liars, anyone that's working on the show, if you hear this, please bring them back like that. I think that would be cool. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Pretty Little Liars Summer School, coming right up in 4, 3, 2, 1. We hit the death of Dr. Sullivan with that, and her tie to the original Pretty Little Liars, her being the therapist from that show, her now dying in this show, could also connect them within a funeral setting for the next season. If the girls do want to attend the funeral of Dr. Sullivan, that could bring in the OG girls as well, since that was also their therapist. They would obviously want to pay their respects. They could overhear a conversation at the funeral about, oh my god, do you think this was A, whatever, and then have some of the OG girls overhear it like, what are you talking about, A? How do you know about A? Boom. That's a way to connect them and have them have a little play into the new world, right? There's so many different things that they can do as long as it's done right. I've been talking a lot for this Pretty Little Liars episode, which I told you I could keep going and going, honestly. Like, we can talk about Jenna, we can talk about Caleb and Paige. Oh god, fucking Paige. See, that's where you lose me, and that's where we're gonna end the show, because I cannot talk about Paige, actually, because I'll be here till tomorrow. With that being said, thanks for listening to this episode. Again, give us a rate, follow on Instagram at The Final Pod. I'm still working on the whole YouTube stuff and getting the audio transferred to the YouTube. Stay tuned to the Instagram for updates on that, so that way you can stream it on YouTube as well if you don't want to do the whole Spotify, Apple podcasting. I get it. I think that's a wrap. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you next time on The Final Pod, and always remember to, what is it? Oh yeah, keep it spooky.